With Duskblood slated to release in 2026 and Night Rain abandoning PvP altogether, I've been thinking a lot about the broad appeal of PvP and how these multiplayer-focused titles might change FromSoft and the Souls series going forward. Duskbloods will be From's first attempt at a focused PvP title that may cater to a mainstream audience. Well, calling a switch to exclusive mainstream might be a stretch for this particular genre, but it does make me wonder how much the industry could benefit from a spotlight on FromSoft's PvP. Invasions, or any form of asymmetrical PvPvE system, have an amazing capacity to both captivate and frustrate. One needn't look far to find someone either railing against or rallying for this niche and arguably tertiary mechanic, and it's not hard to see why in either case. PvP in the modern age is almost always either a core mechanic or completely optional, with the middle ground generally occupied by MMOs with designated areas. Invasions alter this dynamic to such a polarizing extent that calling them controversial wouldn't scratch the surface. And that has always struck me as an unfortunate mainstream take on such a unique feature of a series that has defined its ethos by asking more of players. And it would be easy for me to be dismissive of anyone who I feel doesn't get Invasions or Souls games broadly, but that would be neither fair nor worth exploring. So instead, I'd like to talk through the potential Invasions have for becoming widely accepted. First and foremost, niche is probably the most accurate way to describe the appeal of Invasions. They aren't very concerned with accomplishing a greater goal or facilitating a long-term progression. They just let you attack someone or get attacked as a way to shake up the primary gameplay, at least mechanically. They can shift in importance, like how each Dark Souls had its own territory invasion zones where PvP became a primary function, but overall the invasion system has never been well suited to being a dominant mode. I've already made a video about why other games don't include invasions, so I'll summarize my point by saying it's just too weird for a lot of people to get their head around. It creates friction where most games won't, and if players aren't having their expectations met, the instinct is to push back and insist it is the game that is wrong. Self-reflection is a virtue, and gamers are seldom virtuous. It's a major hurdle for any new mechanic to jump, especially ones built around PvP. The typical mainstream gamer does not want to be challenged when it gets in the way of being entertained. If you don't find invasions entertaining, you aren't going to like them. So can invasions be more entertaining? Well, we know from experience that they can be. Players making meme builds or role-playing in interesting ways can have a very positive effect on people's opinions of the system, but those things don't capture the core essence of what an invasion accomplishes or why people chafe against them. Being invaded means a time crunch. You need to make decisions about how you'll handle a fast-approaching opponent of unknown power. It's a stressor by design, and people don't usually play games to feel stressed. Being invaded also means, even if you know what you're doing, you might get killed. If the level you're trying to beat is proving too much for you, and you already aren't getting the hang of things, piling on with a PvP encounter can push people over the edge. It's likely a big reason why Elden Ring pushed invasions to co-op only. Giving the uninitiated an ally and a handful of other advantages can go a long way toward easing players into the idea. Then again, there's an argument to be made that trying to accommodate hosts goes against invasions as a concept, that succeeding or failing by your own merit is the highest and most noble goal invasions can enforce. I can't say which way is best, but I can say I lean toward design accessibility wherever it can be accomplished without compromising the integrity of that design. Invasions put me off for years, and it was only with slight accommodations made to the system that I found myself invading and understanding their value. And tempting players into trying invasions could be a great way to get them to appreciate the mechanic. What tempting would work is going to be contextual, but I'd say it can't be something arbitrarily forced and forgotten, like Vare's questline. It needs to be something where the player stands to gain not only from some tangible reward, but also from the experience. Invading can be fun, absolutely. I have fun doing it all the time. but it is not always fun. Often it is a painful chore that feels designed to frustrate everyone involved. And a lot of that comes from them being so niche that they don't get the attention they need to thrive. If invading gives you no tangible reward and the experience is mixed, why should anyone engage with it who isn't already acclimated? If invasions went mainstream, where anyone could throw their hat into a fight whenever they saw fit, those are problems that need addressed. Either the experience must be so great that rewards are irrelevant, or they strike a balance of rewarding and enjoyable that works for a majority audience. FromSoft has a long history and plenty of experience with these dynamics, and the fact that they've gone in such unpredictable directions makes it difficult to fully grasp their goals. On the one hand, you have Elden Ring, a game so PvP anemic that it is widely considered a step back from a title released 6 years prior. On the other hand, you have Duskbloods, a game with no obvious as of yet objective other than having a strong focus on role-playing through PvP. Then there's Night Rain, which considers invasions unnecessary to a quality multiplayer experience, along with any other RPG elements. FromSoft confuses me, but what was once in a good way is now in an all too frequent bad way. Elden Ring, to this day, baffles me with how it handles multiplayer. So much so that the only explanation I can give is that they just didn't make it a priority. Anything else was more important, so we were left with a quarter-baked system roughly cut to fit a new mold. Night Rain also confuses me. I don't understand what that team thinks is cool about Souls games, given how different their interpretation is from my own. It makes me question my own sanity and whether or not I've ever been on the same page as the developers. And then Duskbloods comes out of nowhere and tells me that actually PvP can be made into a primary mechanic, but it will cost us the ability to make a character. And from what I know of the game, while it doesn't seem like the PvP will be explicitly invasion-based, it does seem like it will be circumstantial and a little random. You'll happen across other players and be given different motivations for interaction. And on top of everything, it's a Switch 2 exclusive, a platform that immediately shuts out a huge portion of the PvP player base, along with anyone who can't afford luxury under capitalism. So does FromSoft think their PvP model has mainstream potential? Obviously, they're confident enough and willing to make it a selling point of the first unique follow-up to Elden Ring, so maybe there's a case for invasions being taken more seriously in the next mainline entry. I know they aren't the same, but hear me out, they kind of are. Everything about what Duskbloods is pitching is what invasions stand for. Role-playing as a powerful roaming enemy, lore-accurate allyship and confrontation, unique builds catered to the weird and intricate, all while contending with the environment at every step of the way. If those things don't sound appealing to a mainstream audience, I'm comfortable saying mainstream audiences are dumb and don't deserve nice things. They can play FIFA and never speak to me again. But assuming a general audience can appreciate what role-playing can accomplish when it comes to player interaction, the pitch is solid. I've seen so many people disregard Duskbloods for being an exclusive, and that is completely fair. But I've seen maybe even more people disregard it for being a PvP title. I get wanting more RPG and progression elements. I get wanting Elden Ring 2 or Dark Souls 4. But explicitly not wanting PvP is a harder thing to justify. Invasions suffer from all the same complaints, that players don't want to compete against other players, or that the imbalances ruin any and all potential. They're fair enough complaints, but they don't approach the mechanic with any understanding. It's the same story over and over. A player doesn't like, or outright hates, invasions because they aren't having fun with them, and they attribute it to some objective flaw in the concept, instead of a contextual variance that gives players so much more control than they might otherwise be comfortable with. Invasions are, for me and for many others, the ultimate expression of role-playing. There is nothing more inherent to my existence as a player of a character than that character's ability to face other characters. How they interact is everything to me when determining who they are. Like, when I'm playing RuneScape, I'm not really role-playing. I'm using RuneLight to guide me to my next objective because the novelty of the game is constantly weighed against my patience, and I just want to accomplish something I think is cool, something I can use to eventually roleplay. When I interact with other players, it's a universally meta conversation and provides little in the way of character building. It's a game I play entirely in my head, and the mechanics are just obstacles to that immersion. Invasions are the opposite of that. It's impossible for me not to roleplay while invading. I can't be anything other than a red menace, singularly focused on the decimation of all who would oppose me. And being invaded is the same sensation. Someone wants to kill me, here and now, and no matter how strange their mannerisms, no matter how vast the gap between our respective battle experience, I have to accept the reality they enforce and contend with whatever may come. It's hard for me to imagine something like that not existing in an ideal version of what any RPG should try to be. Power fantasy can fit neatly within, so long as the player doesn't require absolute isolation, and every other mainstream appeal in build-making and team dynamics can be accommodated. The only obstacle I see is that people aren't willing to struggle or strive for something more, that putting in the extra time and effort won't be worth it when there's a chance it doesn't work out. It's an instinct I understand all too well as someone who will only cook with a microwave. If I can have 6 out of 10 meals in minutes, why spend an hour making something special? My instinct is to consume, not create. Art requires us to elevate ourselves above those base instincts of instant gratification, and invasions are no different. Role-playing asks us to become something beyond the parameters of our current existence, to explore something unbounded within our own minds. I know that's a little grandiose for a game mode that can boil down to bad red man kills unwitting noob, but I want to express how meaningful these systems can be, and why I think they could appeal to anyone. The lore of Souls games is easy to miss and misinterpret, yet Vaati is raking in millions of views because the stories are worth telling. Countless creators stake their existence on the quality of Souls PvP, despite its obvious jank and relative obscurity. Elden Ring won Game of the Year and is one of the best-selling games of all time. Sure, PvP is just a small part of it, but it's part of it all the same. And many other bestsellers include or entirely focus on PvP as well. And I believe no one other than FromSoftware is better positioned to take advantage of weaving PvP into a traditional role-playing experience. Duskbloods won't be its final form, just as Elden Ring wasn't, but these can be steps to something truly one of a kind. Let me know in the comments how you'd feel about invasions entering the mainstream and what it would take to get them there in your eyes. Do they need microtransactions and a lot of pay-to-win features to blend in with the slop so desired by the masses? Or does gaming need to recalibrate how it balances gameplay and role-playing for immersive PvP to stick the landing? Like the video if you want an invaded future, dislike the video if you didn't realize Elden Ring had PvP, and subscribe to find out who I fight next in my never-ending grudge match against gamer humanity. Until next time, thank you for watching.